Hi, thanks for tuning in. Today I want to show you a project of something that I discovered while I was experimenting with tie-dye. Working with acrylic paints and using acrylic paints for tie-dye. So what I want to do is just kind of show you how I go about it, because typically in a general sense you think of putting acrylic paint on a shirt or fabric and it gets hard. So this process that I'm going to show you eliminates that. So just to get started, I've already put up a list for you of what you're going to need, but I'm just going to run it down for you real quick. You're going to need, of course, your acrylic paint, and I always choose the brightest colors that you can find. Toothpicks come in handy. Lots of rubber bands come in handy. Rubbing alcohol. Yes, rubbing alcohol. You're going to need, plastic containers. Quite a few would be useful and helpful. Foil. And I like to use these containers that I found. They are from coffee creamer, powdered coffee creamer, and I just removed the labels, and they work really good for storing your excess color, or once you get the color, you're going to want to store it, because really the color goes a very long way, so that's a good thing. And then also you're going to want to have a few paint brushes. The kind that I like it's like a little fan. You don't have to have this kind, but it's kind of cool because you can use the paint brushes and implement that into your artwork and into your tie-dye. So I'm just going to pause the tape and we'll get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take your foil, and also just to have some plastic, some gloves on hand, so that you don't get your hands all dirty. First thing you're going to do is line one of your plastic bowls with the foil, and you want to press the foil down and in to create kind of a cup, like a strainer. And then take your toothpick and poke holes all the way around in a circular motion, just like you would like we're just making a strainer here, basically. Take another container and fill that container with the color. I'm going to use yellow. So just put a bunch of paint in the bottom of the container, and then we're going to take your rubbing alcohol and dilute that paint. You just want to kind of do like half and half for starters. Get your paintbrush and mix it. What you're going to do is dilute that color, and the alcohol is actually not working just to dilute, but also to separate the color from the acrylic and oils, all the chemicals and particles that you'll find in acrylic paint. So basically we're just gonna get the color. And as you can see, there's a lot of goop on my brush. A lot of little particles. You'll see when you do this at home, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Basically, you want to get as much color as you can out of it, and once you've Once you've done this a couple of times, you can add more alcohol and you'll get actually more more color and more I guess you could say a larger quantity. Alright, so we mix that up, and then what we're going to do is pour the mixture into our strainer. Okay, and you're going to see all that residue left behind. There's a lot of residue in there. Whoops. I don't know if you can see this. Okay, all the residue in there. There's residue left behind on the foil. Now you're going to take this off and go rinse it off. Rinse it inside and out. Come back and repeat the process. Okay, I have returned, and I'd like to just show you that you want to use soap and water when you clean these out. And my foil is a little crinkled, but it still works just fine. Now you're going to dump your color back into the same container, and you're going to notice even more residue left behind, which is awesome. Each time you do this, you're going to notice less and less residue, and you really only have to do it, it depends on the paint, but 2 or 3 times is really what it takes. Oh, and you want to dilute it a little bit each time. So this would be the second time. I'll get my brush out. There's a lot of, see this? This is what, oops, this is what you're going to see. See all that goop? That's what the alcohol does. It removes this from it. So then that way, this is what actually is, if you use this on cotton or any kind of material, you're going to find that that's why it hardens. So yeah, acrylic paint is not usually good for tie-dye. But like I said, thanks to Sharpie Pen Science, I have come up with an idea that seems to work pretty well. And of course, you know, whenever you're working with crafts, you'll be presented with ideas from crafters, and then you'll come up with your own ideas. You know, somebody will probably come up with an idea from what I'm doing here. So it's all good. It works out. So again, use your brush, mix up the color, dilute it as much as possible. Usually what you'll find is if you dilute acrylic paint and you let it sit, there's going to be, you know, it will separate itself. But what I'm trying to do is eliminate what you would get from the separation. You really don't want to have any residue in your color. The less residue, meaning, you know, the thick goop that you just witnessed off the brush, the less problems you're going to have with it once it goes onto your material in your garment. I just want to say 2 things. That when you use this color for dipping and for tie-dye, you want to let the color set in and dry. Okay, we're going to go ahead and strain it again. You want to let it sit and dry, and then if it feels stiff, if the material feels stiff, you can just go ahead and put more rubbing alcohol on that area and squeeze it out, and it will remove any of that stiffness. And then also, to set your color, it's a good idea to take like a gallon of water with maybe a half a cup of vinegar, white vinegar, and a couple of tablespoons of salt, table salt, in cold water, and stir that up and let your put your material, your tie-dyed material, into that mixture and let it sit for about an hour. And in doing that, you're gonna ensure that the color stays bright and pretty for a long time. Okay, see there, less residue than the last time, and definitely a lot less. the second time around. And this is what you're looking for. When you pour it into the container, you don't want to see much residue left behind. That's when you know that the process is pretty much done. So I'm going to go ahead and accept that because I think that's a pretty good mixture. And I'm going to get my plastic container here. Pour the color into the plastic. And you're going to see a little bit of residue, but this was already there from before I strained it too. So it's okay because it sticks to the bottom. And you're going to find that just rinsing this out doesn't work. You actually have to use soap and water to get it off. So there you have it. Now, again, I'm going to add more alcohol to it and really get it diluted. And now I have one more color that I can use for tie-dye. Okay, so far I have yellow, I have like a greenish turquoise color, I have red, I have pink, I have a sort of a purple color, and an orange color. Now we're going to get to the tie-dye. I'm going to pause the tape and return.